Hello, and welcome back if you're returning. Welcome if you are new to my channel. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm Dr. Kelly, and I talk about all things food, mood, and nourishing the soul. So, in this particular interview, I'm so excited because Sarah, known as the Carnivore Yogi, and I talk about food mood. We start with food and mood and how an animal-based way of eating improved her mental health and kind of surprised her actually when she first started at how much it improved her mental health. But then we end up talking about all kinds of helpful things like earthing and walking barefoot and sunlight and how cold therapy is helpful. So all the things. So I hope you enjoy watching this video as much as I enjoyed talking with Sarah. So please come back, subscribe, and leave comments. I'm so excited to talk to you, Sarah. You have no idea like how exciting this is for me. You have been so helpful to me on my journey. See, I'm going to tear up. I mean, I know you know that you're helpful to people, but I don't think that you realize that those of us that are in the health and wellness space and kind of trying to navigate carnivore or animal-based and a yogi, like I didn't have any wellness yogis helping me when I figured out that animal was the way to go. So
it is not really a normal thing,
No, it's quite confusing for people. And so you've always been so great at answering questions, or if I couldn't find some kind of something. So thank you.
I'm glad. You're so welcome. Yeah, you're very welcome.
Yeah. So I'm really interested in talking about mental health and food. So I thought we could start there, but I know you and I are similar in terms of the quantum healing and the quantum physics and sun and all of that has become really important. So I thought we could get there, but maybe just start by talking about, what your experience is with mental health and the food mood connection.
Sure. That sounds good.
Okay. Yeah. So your journey, I guess maybe just starting with your experience with mental health and maybe from your own perspective, but also people that you work with and how food is related to mental health.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of always my whole life had this inclination that there was some relation with what I was eating and how I was feeling. Cause I remember I would, my mom would kind of just treat us with food, like if we were sad or happy or any kind of emotions that we had as a child, big emotions, there was like some sort of food involved with it. And I knew like that sometimes when I would eat those foods, I would not feel as good. I would feel tired. I would feel more depressed whenever I would eat a lot of sugar. So I had that feeling for a really long time. And I kind of knew as a kid that I probably would feel better if I got rid of a lot of those foods, but I was just really highly addicted to them, honestly.
Right.
So yeah. And I was, started on antidepressants when I was like 14. And so I just was on medication for depression from a really young age. And, got into like my 30s and just really decided I didn't want to be on medication anymore. I mean, when I started becoming a yoga teacher and got into that world, I just really was like wanting to dive into alternative health and to not be on medication and to do, everything I possibly could to be all natural, So of course I went vegan, thinking that was going to help, that was going to be the holy grail, and ended up being on more medications when I was vegan. Like I was on like 5 different medications by the end of my stint with veganism. I was just such a disaster. My mental health was the worst at that time. And then I started following more of a paleo approach and gave up sugar. At that point, I was like, I'm doing paleo, and I started feeling a lot better. And I quit drinking about the same time that I had stopped drinking. I ended up going back to the sugar, back to the food, and was just miserable again. And so then I found carnivore, and I had kind of come off of my medications when I quit drinking. I was like, I just don't want to take these anymore.
Mhm.
I'm done. But I really didn't feel awesome. I really was kind of teetering on like, should I go back on these? I'm still feeling depressed because had switched basically from alcohol to food for
Right.
the self-medicating,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I was like, I was unsure, but then when I started doing carnivore,
Mhm.
I was just really shocked how much better my mental health was. I mean, just
Yeah.
shocked.
Yeah.
And that was, there were a lot of other awesome benefits. I was dealing with like IBS and joint pain and a lot of eczema and like some really serious physical issues. But the mental aspect, I think that's what actually really kept me on carnivore, because I did have some bumps in the road with electrolytes and different things like that and hormones that I had to figure out. But just the way that I felt mentally,
Mhm.
I was like, I got to keep doing this, because I had never really felt that sort of mental clarity and just like that kind of lift of depression ever before.
Right. Yeah. I think that is what keeps a lot of people, even if they're not carnivore, but they're carnivore-ish or whatever,
Yep.
once they transition to the animal based. That's what's surprising to people, is that they didn't realize how much fog they had,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
how, I mean, we know, like, yeah, I've always had anxiety. I'm kind of an anxious person, but then to live without that much anxiety is really powerful. And I think that's what keeps people going. And I think that's, I mean, for me, that's how I found you, is because I
Yeah.
still had stuff. I was committed, but I also was just concerned about our microbiome. I had been teaching
Yeah.
gut health
Yeah.
from this perspective of needing variety and veggies. So,
Hmm.
yeah. But so talk to me about, I know you're well versed in the microbiome world, but for people who are concerned about that, they want the mental health benefits, but then they're worried about their microbiome if they go animal based.
I have found just over the last couple years that really the best thing I've done for my microbiome is sunlight and barefoot walking,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
Those two things have improved my microbiome better than any other, like adding in different foods, any probiotics, anything like that. I mean, those two things, like the red light therapy, sunlight, barefoot walking, I mean, it's just remarkable how much those things have like helped my gut. And actually taking a gut test,
Yes.
like just an inexpensive one, not like a GI map,
Mhm.
but it will show you the diversity in your gut. And since adding in those kind of more quantum things, and not really a lot of variety of food, I'm not eating all the different foods they say you need for your microbiome. I'm really not doing that.
Mhm.
I have seen my diversity go way up. And there was just a study that came out,
Mhm.
I want to say a couple of weeks ago, is the Parkinson's study about, they used red light, the photobiomodulation on these Parkinson's patients, and saw that their microbiome diversity like skyrocketed. So
Which is
there is
amazing.
actual science behind it now, that something as simple as sunlight could help us to increase our microbiome diversity. Maybe we're overthinking things with all these, varieties of foods and
Mhm.
probiotics and things. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, I still take probiotics. Honestly, I still
Yeah.
really like my probiotics, and take those. But yeah, I didn't see that type of improvement with just probiotics alone.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, adding the sun has improved so many things for me. So
Yeah.
I just can't even believe it, actually. So now
Yeah.
I'm always
Yeah.
harping anybody who will listen. I'm like, sunrise is non-negotiable for me now.
Yeah, same. And that's the mental health benefits of the sunrise, the quantum stuff,
Mhm.
sunrise and cold therapy. I mean, there's literally
Yeah.
nothing that I've done more powerful for my mental health than those things. I mean, sunrise and the UVA light, it's ridiculous. It really is.
Yeah. The UVA. And then, of course, I'm always harping on the UVB because vitamin
Yeah.
D, I think you also had the experience where you doubled or so your vitamin
Mhm.
D in a short period of time without supplements too.
I
Yeah.
did. Yeah, I
Yeah.
went from like a 30 to 60, and then by the end of last summer I was up over 100.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, I tested the first time in June, the beginning of June. It was a 33. And then I tested again, I think it was in August, and it had gone to a 60. And then I tested again in September and it was over 100. So
Amazing. And how
yeah.
how much time are you, I mean, you spend as much time as you can outside now.
Yeah, I do.
But is there anything in like specifically that you did?
I used the Dminder app.
Me too.
Just that's what would tell me how long I need to stay out there without getting burned.
Right.
And I had a couple of times where I did get a little crispy, but it was nothing like horrible where I had welts on my skin and I got sun poisoning and felt sick. It was nothing like that.
Right.
Because I had done that as a younger person. Right. Yeah, as long as I use the Dminder app, it will tell you, okay, it's time for you to get out of the sun.
Get out.
Yeah, flip over or leave because you're going to burn. And I just listened to that. And that was enough for me to get my vitamin D up, which was really, really cool.
That's exactly what I did because I was having a bad reaction to the supplements. So that's when you're super sensitive. Yeah. This is what we do. So
exactly.
So I know your diet has changed somewhat. But you're still mostly carnivore. Is that?
Yeah, I am. I just added in, like today I had sardines with Primal Kitchen mayo and I had some olives, so I'll add in things like olives, occasionally avocado. But I don't really cook a lot of vegetables. I mean, we haven't had vegetables in like forever. It's funny. I don't cook them for my family really, unless they just really beg for them. We just don't really cook a lot of vegetables here. So yeah, I mean, it's still mostly carnivore, but occasionally I'll be like, I'd like some olives, or an avocado would be good. But it's not like all the time, honestly.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So how is it with your family?
And it's pretty easy now. Just with the food stuff.
Yeah. Or any of it, all of it.
Yeah. I mean, there's always like an adjustment period. I've been doing this kind of lifestyle for 3 years or more now, a little over 3 years. And so, yeah, like almost 3.5 years now, I've been eating like no sugar, carnivore. So there was definitely an adjustment like that first year that it was like, you're going to die, like this unhealthy for you. And my husband's all freaked out. And, so that was an adjustment, but then he started seeing that that wasn't happening and that I was okay. And that I was mentally better and physically better and all that stuff. So he kind of chilled out a little bit. And a lot, I would say in the year 2020, I would cook a lot of extra stuff for him, like potatoes or vegetables. I would always have to have like meat and then sides for him. But now, I mean, here we are, 2022. I almost never really have to do that anymore. Like he doesn't complain if the dinner is just like meat. Yeah. He's just like, okay, cool. Thanks. This looks good.
Yeah.
So that's fairly new. That's like 3 years in here where he will actually see a plate of meat and be like, dinner, cool. Not like, where's the broccoli and potatoes?
Right.
So that's cool because that's like less work for me.
Yeah.
So that's helpful. And my daughter I try to keep her more keto at this point because it's just easier. And she has been having a little bit of seizure activity. And so we are bumping up the fats quite a bit. I'm trying to avoid putting her on seizure medication, but it may be unavoidable at this point.
Right.
So I do try to keep her very high fat, I do MCT oils for her. I buy the really nice high quality MCTs and give that like a shot of MCT with every meal for her. And sometimes she'll sometimes have like 4 shots of MCT in a day. She loves Carnivore Bars. They're like carnivore fudge. Like I have to hide them because they're like 400 calories a bar. I'm like, you probably shouldn't eat multiple of those per day.
Right.
But she loves those. She loves carnivore crisps. She loves all this, the treats, I don't buy them as much because they end up getting overeaten here by everybody in the house. The keto bricks, Robert and Crystal, their company, they're really great people.
Yeah.
But she dude, if I get the keto bricks, forget it. Like she's trying to eat those all the time. So yeah, I mean, my whole family, we were really either low to no carb, and it's just a lifestyle at this point. It's not a diet. It's just truly like lifestyle, you know?
Yes. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to that piece because I still love to cook. I like to chop things, which is
Yeah. Oh,
weird, but
I hate it.
yeah, if you hate it, that's great. But I think I feed them more veggies than they want just because
You like the
I like to
chopping.
do that stuff. But I'm no longer, I don't believe it's healthy I mean, I
Yeah.
don't believe that's the healthier version of eating.
Yeah.
So that's a big shift. Yeah. Yeah. Your daughter's amazing, by the way.
Oh,
I
thank
love,
you.
yeah, I like following her too. So
Thank you.
yeah, so it can be helpful if the whole family, I mean, it's a lifestyle. Is everybody
Exactly.
else into the being outside? Do you have,
We are now. I mean,
okay.
that's another awesome shift that's really happened. I mean, we go hiking
Mhm.
sometimes 3 or 4 times a weekend, usually just twice a weekend, usually Saturday morning and Sunday morning. We have our hiking trails we go on. But sometimes we're like, oh my gosh, it's so nice. We went hiking at 9 in the morning. It's like 3 in the afternoon. What else are we going to do? Let's go for another hike. So we're outside a lot. You know, my husband's finally okay with the weird lighting situation in the house with
Right.
all my bulbs and red lights on at different times. And he's just like, okay, that's fine. You know, and I have the shop Waycan screen over the TV. So
Okay.
it's like a huge like red filter over our TV. And at first he was really mad about it. And now he's fine. So yeah, I mean, it's been an adjustment because I've been doing kind of the quantum stuff, I would say since like April, May of last year. So not even really a
Right.
full year yet. So it's taken some time for him to adjust and be okay with it. But now, I mean, yeah, the family is really involved in being outdoors. And he said something the other week that cracked me up. And he's like, I just can't wait for the weather to get nicer now that I'm an outdoors person. And I was like, what?
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, because he used to just want to sit and watch TV and football and sports all day. Like that was like his idea of a
Right.
great Saturday was let me watch the games and all the stuff like starting at like 10 in the morning. Let's just turn on the TV and have it on all the time. And now I keep the TV off and windows open and doors, you know, like it's just a different lifestyle now, which I really do enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's a shift for the whole family. So
Yeah.
that's good. And the red light, so I'm outside mostly, and we do the blue blockers and all of that. And I
Mhm.
thank you because I asked you if those glasses would fit my face.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I'm wondering if there's anything else. I know people can find you, and I'll link to how people can find you. You've got lots of videos. But is
Yeah.
there anything in particular that you're like, oh, you've got to have this? If you can't afford all different lights, at least you can get barefoot and you can get in the sun. But is there
Yeah.
anything else for the house or would you recommend the blue blockers if somebody's just kind of
I'd
starting?
say blue blockers are a really great thing to get
Mhm.
started with because you really want to fix your circadian rhythm.
Rhythm.
That's number one in your health because
Mhm.
that is going to control your hormone production. That's going to
Mhm.
control, you know, obviously your sleep is tied to your hormone production, but it's going to control your leptin, your cortisol, your thyroid hormones,
Yeah.
serotonin, dopamine, tryptophan, tyrosine. All that stuff is a signal that you get from sunlight in your eyes. And in the evenings, it's very important to wear those blue blockers because you want your body after sunset to start to go into shutdown and for you to get that melatonin pumping
Right.
into your body because melatonin is a master antioxidant. I mean,
Right.
melatonin repairs your body when you're sleeping. And if you're watching TV or if you're blasting your eyes and your body, because the melanopsin receptors are also on the skin, but if you're blasting, you know, your body and your eyes with artificial light after sunset, that is going to blunt your body's ability to make that melatonin. You're not going to get those deep healing benefits in your sleep, you know? And
Right.
that's what's so important. And that's what I feel like is more powerful than even someone doing like a bunch of fasting or, you know,
Mhm.
to get good melatonin pumping through your body at night and get that good sleep. is more powerful than so many other things that you could spend money on and stress out about. So I think the blue blockers, wearing the red lenses after sunset, is really, really important.
Yeah. And it's easy. I feel like I did
Yeah,
that before I knew anything else.
yeah.
I was going out in sunrise and I was doing blue blockers, and that was about it in terms of,
Yeah.
and that was helpful. Now, do you ever find at night it's kind of like you might as well just go to bed because I don't want to be in the light, and I don't, I mean, do you read, or what do you do in the evening?
I read sometimes. I'll read to my daughter. We're reading Temple Grandin's book right now, which is kind of fun. Yeah, she's really enjoying it. But I just buy like a little clip on. I buy paperback. I don't use Kindle or any kind of electrical device to read on.
Me too.
So I just buy a clip-on amber light, and then I have my red blue blockers on, and that's how I read at night, just sitting in a dark room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then of course everybody's like, why are you always sitting in the dark? Making melatonin, people.
Because
making melatonin.
We're not, like, everyone doesn't realize we have just created all these artificial environments. Like our bodies never experience winter. Our bodies never have to experience darkness. Our bodies don't experience the seasons. And like when it's going to be summertime, everyone's going to be running into the AC all the time. So it's like, it's a year round thing. I mean, this year with the cold, my husband did, I tell you, freak out a little bit with all my cold plunging and like outside on the deck in a bikini thing. He's like, you are going to get hypothermia. You're going to get sick. And I did not get sick at all. I felt great. And it just was, I mean, it was invigorating. I freaking love the cold therapy, but he's like, why are you doing this? I'm like, because we live in a heated house. The cars are heated. The buildings are heated. The house is heated. He's like, your ancestors never jumped in ice water. I'm like, well, they might have, but they were, I'm like, they may have occasionally, but they were cold. They lived outside. They may have had a camp, a fire, but you can't keep the fire going all night,
Yeah.
Now,
did you love the cold therapy? I mean, I'm doing it because I'm doing it for my mitochondria, for my health, but I do not love it. And I like the after. I like how I feel, but did you have to work your way into it, or do you like it from the get-go?
So what I did is I kind of did Jack Cruise's protocol where I got the bowl of ice water and just started with my face. And I would just dunk my face. And the first time I did it, I was like, this sucks. And then I just started feeling so good afterwards, like just so invigorated, that I just absolutely loved it, And so then I have my cool fat burner vest. And so I started wearing that and got adjusted to that. And was like, all right, I'm ready to plunge. And so I started my water off at like probably 59, 60 degrees for 5 minutes. And that wasn't so bad, honestly. And I remember doing it and just feeling like, wow, I feel so amazing. And it's, every time I do it, I'm not excited. I'm like, oh, I don't really want to do this. But the feeling that I have after the cold plunges is just like there's no comparison to that and anything else. Honestly, it feels so good. Yeah.
And it's not hard. I mean, you have to,
no, it's really not,
but it's really not hard of all the things to do.
It's so quick. It's so fast. I mean, you really, because now my water is about 35 and I can stay in for 5 minutes. And I'm like, 5 minutes is fine. I can do anything for 5 minutes. And I'll just put on like some music that I really enjoy.
Good music. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I do. I'm like, I'll pull out my Spotify and here's 2 songs I really like. And they're like 8 minutes long. So if I get through the first one and then a little bit through the second one, then I'm done, And so I just like enjoy the music and relax and just like feel, try to feel the experience. I don't try to shut it out or do crazy Wim Hof or anything like that. I'm just like enjoying it, just breathing through it, allowing myself to kind of orient, feel all of it. And I feel like it's actually been really helpful in healing trauma, to be honest with you.
I was just going to say, because you're feeling, when you allow yourself to feel it and not check out.
Yes.
That could be super healing. I mean, I don't know, I sort of put that together, but until this very moment of how helpful that could be for trauma.
Yeah, I honestly feel like, because I had some stuff last year that was really hard. I haven't come out and talked about it yet. Hopefully I will sometime soon, but I had some really hard stuff last year to deal with. And
Mm.
that cold therapy was just like the answer for me, honestly.
Wow.
It was the most powerful thing I've done for
Mhm.
my mental health, beyond food. I mean, it's just, I can't tell you how great it helped me. I mean, with the mental health thing and just getting rid of trauma, because yeah, you're in the ice and you're really feeling your body and you're really breathing through it.
Mhm.
And I really truly believe it is transforming the cells in your body, the water network in your body. I really do believe it's transformative in that way.
Yeah, that, and I'm so proud of myself when I'm done.
Yeah. You're like,
There is,
I just did that. Like no one else is doing
I
this.
know it's different. I mean, you can be proud of yourself for a lot, but it's different. It's a different
Yeah.
kind of proud.
Yeah, it is.
So I think that's, I'm sorry that you had some trauma, and I'm
Yeah.
grateful that you have tools and that you are willing to share with people. Like, this is what's been helpful. And one of the things I love about you is that you're not dogmatic about it. Like, you're not like, you
Right.
have to do this and you have to do it this way, because that doesn't work for people.
No, it doesn't help. It doesn't help anybody if you come off like that. And
Mm-mm.
everyone else is stupid and my way is the only way and right way. And I mean, there's
Yeah,
people out there that that's their approach.
I
And
know. Yeah.
maybe it gets them views and likes, but it never really helps anybody in the long term. I'm the one who gets their clients,
I know.
know.
Yeah, because they have,
Then they call me and they're like, okay, well, that was really a big disaster. What do I do now? I'm like, okay.
right, right. And you've started doing workshops now, more workshops than
Yeah.
before. So
Yeah.
that's really fun. And that's a great way for people to get to know you, um,
Yep.
and learn more. And how often are you doing those? Because I thought you just
Once a
had one
month right
yesterday,
now.
right?
I just had one yesterday.
Yeah,
Yep. And
yeah.
then I'm already thinking about what I could do for March. I might want to do one just on sleep in March. I'm not sure. We'll see.
I
Yep.
think so many people need just sleep. Like, if they could
Yep.
just fix their sleep, a lot of other things would fix.
Yeah. Like I said, that melatonin at night repairing the body is more important than, getting in that HIIT workout, getting in, those doing X amount of steps. If you're not going to sleep, then you're just causing more stress to your body by doing those things.
Hmm. Yeah, I wonder how many people out there, just their bodies are so stressed.
Yeah. I mean, I've had those women come to me a lot and they're like, I can't lose weight. And I'm like, well, tell me about your activity levels. Let's talk about, I want to see what a 24-hour day looks like for them. But then they tell me that they're doing like, 5 hours a week of HIIT training. And I'm like, no, that's no wonder you're inflamed and you feel terrible and you can't lose weight, because you're causing all this inflammation in your body by over exercising. I'm like, just walk. Let's do walking until you get your
Mhm.
weight at a better place. Cause that's what I did.
Mhm.
When I lost weight, was I wasn't doing any weight training at all. I just was walking outdoors in a tank top and shorts and just exposing my body to sunlight.
Mhm.
And the weight just fell off of me that way. I didn't have to do HIIT training and weight training and all that stuff, honestly.
Right. Yeah, I haven't either. Well, I dropped dairy. Um,
Yeah.
and that made a big difference for me. And I was going to ask you about your dairy, because you've
Yeah.
added it back in.
Hmm.
I'm nervous about that, just from a food addiction
Mm,
perspective. And so I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about your thoughts about food addiction, and for people who, food addiction in my world is very real.
yeah.
And so I'm just cautious about
Yeah.
adding things back, because I don't want the cravings and that internal struggle to come back. And I do not feel sober when I'm eating dairy, but I'm hoping
Mm.
that maybe will change with the more quantum healing. So,
That's what has been the case for me, quite
mhm.
honestly. What I did I did deuterium depleted water for 90
Yeah.
days, which was really amazing. I haven't talked a ton about it just because I don't know if it's the right thing for everyone to do. And I've
Right.
had a couple of my coaches say, don't recommend it for everyone, because we have seen a couple people not have good experiences with it. So it's one of those things we don't know a ton about. I think I'm going to try to get Laszlo Boros on my show to talk more about deuterium.
Mhm.
But, you know, that and the cold therapy,
Mhm.
doing those two things, that's when I really was fine with dairy.
Hmm.
And sun, lots of sunshine and grounding.
Right.
Because I couldn't do dairy for a really long time, but I would say I've been eating it very regularly, probably since November of this year.
Right.
Um, and it's not something I overeat. It's not something I obsess over. And it was that way for me for a
It
really
was.
long time.
Okay.
I couldn't have a little bit of cheese. It had to be like a ridiculous amount of cheese. There was no moderation for me, but now it's like, oh, I can have a little bit of cheese with this. Cool. And it's kind of like take it or leave it. I enjoy it. I definitely really enjoy it, but and it doesn't take up like my whole brain the way
Mhm.
like alcohol would. Or if I started eating like chocolate again, that probably would be like, something that I'd think about constantly.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. That's what was my other question about chocolate. Like, are there's some no's for you? Like alcohol,
yeah,
chocolate, these things are not coming.
alcohol's a big no.
Mhm.
Working with Dr. Hunt, I did
Yeah.
do refeeding
Yeah.
last summer a lot. I quit doing refeeding because a lot of the quantum coaches that I've started working with say that during the winter, it's not really ancestrally appropriate to eat any carbohydrates at all. Um,
That
so
makes
that's
sense.
why I just totally, I quit completely refeeding during winter, really. Um, but I did okay with it last year in the summer and right up until like about September. I think October is when I just cut it off, because that's when I talked with Dr. Gasvini, and he's like, nope, you need to cut it out. No more of the
More-
refeeds.
See, I think refeeding is so confusing for people.
It is. Yeah,
Um,
it is.
because they
Especially
don't.
if you have food addiction, because it can really
Right.
set you off.
Right.
And I never have liked that advice so she was like, eat sugar, eat cake or eat candy. And
Right.
I would do it, but then I would just have this huge like mental battle the next day.
That's right.
I would feel the depression, and then I would have to be like, no, we're not going to do that again today, like, and I just didn't really like that. And so I just kind of switched the refeeding up myself, and would,
Mhm.
on the days that I was doing a refeed, I would eat blueberries, I would eat potatoes, I would like make my own homemade French fries in the air fryer using like, avocado oil. And that's the way I started doing it towards the end of my refeeding, was just using like whole foods
Right.
that
Yeah.
were local, seasonal, all that stuff. And
Right.
though that is okay for me. And I'm thinking I'm probably going to try that again come spring.
Spring. Mhm.
Yeah, when it's ancestrally appropriate. Right now it's still winter. It doesn't make sense, because food has light code. So if you're putting light code into your body from Costa Rica,
Yeah.
and you're in Colorado or
Yeah.
Canada, you're eating foods that were grown in Costa Rica, like that's a circadian mismatch for your body. Your body doesn't really
Confusing.
know what to do with that.
Right.
Um, so I think that aspect is important as well. But I really, you know, I try to stay away from anything processed, honestly. I think that is for me just a no, because as soon as I start eating,
Mhm.
like I think I think it was Christmas this year. I was just like, you know what? I don't care today. I'm just going to eat whatever I want. And I did. And we were at my in-laws' house, and they had gluten-free pretzels with like a sour cream and onion dip. And I was like, I'll try this. And I had one, and then before you knew it, I had like 20 of them, and I didn't even want to do that. I was like, I don't even want to be eating this right now. It's good, but it's not like that good. And so that was like a good reminder I didn't go off and binge and make myself sick or anything, but it
Mhm.
was just like a good reminder for me of like, yeah, processed foods are engineered for you to overeat them. And
Right.
even though you've been away from them for a very long time, that fact does not change. It's still it's still going to be highly addictive for you. You're going to have one and then it's going to turn into 20. And then you're going to be like, God, why do I feel like crap?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or do you have more videos about the refeeding? Do you have, I don't think I've seen.
I haven't made a ton of videos about it, honestly, just because I know a lot of people that follow me really do either struggle with insulin resistance
Mhm.
or with food addiction issues. And I've just seen with people in my videos over the years, they
Mhm.
tend to kind of forget about those things and just say, well, Sarah said to do this, and then they do it. And then it ends up being really
No
disastrous for them.
problem.
So that's why I haven't really talked about the refeeds so much,
Yeah.
because I just don't want to trigger people and I don't want people to think that that's something that they like have to do in order to be healthy. Cause I think the jury is still really out on that.
I agree. And I just am uncomfortable with, I mean, I'm okay with other people that have figured it out and that's cool. And Dr. Hunt seems to eat her pecan pie and she's fine. But I don't feel like people really understand the food addiction piece.
No,
Um,
they don't.
and I think we need to be at least more vocal or aware or something about
Yeah.
the food addiction part and insulin resistance. But I mean, the food addiction,
Yeah.
I think it's difficult for people to understand if you don't live it, if you
Yeah.
haven't experienced it in your body. And I remember listening to people say, "Oh, well, your cravings will stop because physically you won't be craving it." I was like, okay, when did the psychological cravings stop? Because when you
Yeah.
have these attachments to food was pleasure for you,
Right.
this is, I mean, it's
Yeah.
tricky.
It is tricky. And I don't know the more quantum I do, the more outdoor time I spend, the more electrons that I get pumping through my body,
Yeah.
um, the less I feel burdened by things like that, honestly. So I do feel like maybe that could be really helpful for people, but I'm never going to sit here and say I'm cured. I'm not going to go to the liquor store. you know,
Right.
I'm not going to mess with that because that's a really hard addiction to break. And it's just unnecessary. It doesn't add anything to my life anymore.
Right.
So yeah, and I don't think a lot of people understand. Like I remember I did ask Dr. Hunt what she thought about people with food addiction when I interviewed her on my podcast. And she
Yeah.
was just like, basically like, that's not like a real thing. And if they would just get enough sunshine and ketosis, that's going to go away. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't
Because
really
there's
think
also
that.
drama and other aspects wrapped up in there. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But I wonder, do you feel like ketosis? I know we've gone back and forth a little bit, but at this point, do you feel like ketosis is important?
I think it's very helpful. I think
Mhm.
that it is just one of the best things you can do if you have inflammation in your
Yeah.
body. I really do. I think it's
Yes.
very helpful.
Mhm.
Um, I kind of cycle in and out. I'm not like, and when I say that, I mean like sometimes I'll probably eat more low carb or more higher protein so that if I tested myself with a blood sugar meter, my blood sugar would be in a good spot, but my ketones would probably be like a 0.5 or something like that,
Yeah.
and then some days I will do just like high fat keto, it's just,
Mhm.
and if I test my ketones, they're like, around a 1.0, 2.0. So I try to be a little bit more intuitive with it. I do
Yeah.
find naturally, before my cycle starts and ovulation that I feel a lot better if I eat higher fat and I am in that therapeutic ketosis because it just kind of keeps inflammation down for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, for sure.
but yeah, I don't really have like a specific, like it has to be this day, this I don't really count and track anymore.
Yeah. And I think that's a beautiful place to be. Like where you're intuitively, what do you think about intuitive eating? Just quickly, the whole intuitive eating movement.
I don't like what the actual intuitive eating movement at all because they say all foods should fit and that includes processed foods. And I've, had family members try to do intuitive eating and they just gain a ton of weight. And then the intuitive eating people say that's normal. That's what is supposed to happen because you're letting your body actually have foods you've been restricting. And so overeating is normal. And they kind of go into this whole thing. And I'm like, but it's not though. Like, and that's going to be really bad for their health. And, it's hard to have family members that do it and be like, oh, I'm eating Pop-Tarts now because it's something I've been craving. And the intuitive eating people say I should just eat what I've been craving and restricting myself from. And then you like watch a family member gain, 50 pounds because they're doing intuitive eating. And it's like, yeah, I don't like it. I feel that I can intuitively eat with the foods that I choose. I don't have to weigh, track, and measure anymore. I did for a while, especially I was trying to get my leptin levels in a good spot because I had really wrecked my leptin levels for a while there. So I think that I can now because I fixed my leptin and I only eat like real food. I'm not gonna, I'm not at the place where I just find myself binging and overeating. I don't do that. So that's a huge thing for me.
Yeah. And I think that's my concern with intuitive eating is that if your gut microbiome is all messed up and you're craving weird, processed crap, that's not helpful.
Yeah. And you're left, it's, I've learned, I'm to get some water.
I know. I was like, is it water time? Yeah. Yeah.
As I've learned, and my whole webinar yesterday was on reversing leptin resistance.
Yeah.
If you have extra body fat on your body, then your leptin is probably too high. You're probably leptin resistant. If you have carb cravings, if you have sugar cravings, you more than likely have leptin resistance. And, overeating, number one, and eating carbohydrates out of season, two, and eating after dark, three, all of these things that intuitive eating says, go for it, do it, processed foods, that destroys your leptin levels. That makes you more leptin resistant. And what leptin does is dock to the hypothalamus as we sleep and tells the brain, this is how much body fat we have. So body temperature needs to be this. Body fat, here's your appetite for tomorrow. So it's like a self-regulating system. The body is this beautiful self-regulating system if we get out of the way. But if you're eating processed carbohydrates and you're eating, overeating, and you're eating after dark and doing all these other things that intuitive eating says, go for it, you don't have good leptin levels. And so you really don't, your body cannot regulate itself. You can't regulate your appetite. You can't regulate your body temperature. All of those things are a complete mess. And so there's no way to intuitively eat if you're leptin resistant.
Right. Which is, that's actually kind of new for me. I've just been learning about that in the last few months. So I appreciate the more information you bring to that, the awareness. That's very helpful. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, So I am wondering, you're so public and you put so much out there in terms of transparency, which I personally appreciate. But I'm just wondering what is it that people don't know about you? Is there something you'd be willing to share that people don't know about you?
There's a lot people don't know about me. I had a very interesting upbringing. I grew up in like a cult, which was pretty interesting.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I lost my dad pretty tragically when I was young. I had a really interesting upbringing that I don't really talk about that often. I mean, I talk mostly just about the food.
Right.
I do talk about my daughter every now and then, but she's not the main focal point of my page, but she's, the focal point of my life. She has non-speaking autism, and her whole journey has really made me who I am today, just trying to understand what happened to her, and how can I help her?
Right.
That's been a big part of my life as well.
Right. Yeah. And help her find her voice. Because she got very powerful things to say. She just doesn't say them the way that
vocally. Yeah, she spells them. Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah, I didn't know about your upbringing. Nobody probably
I don't really talk about it. One day I'll do like a Sarah Tells All video.
That would be fun. Yeah,
We'll
because I think,
see.
so many, we all have a history and we
Yeah.
all got here and I think that a lot of us, when we find our way to heal, we want to heal
Yeah.
ourselves and then share it with other people. It's because we've
Mhm.
been through quite a bit of crap. Um,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
and how long have you been
definitely.
a yoga instructor?
For 12 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
that's another big part of your life too.
yeah, I don't even act like that's a thing. I mean, I'm only teaching really 1 day a week now
Mm.
via Zoom. When everything started, quote unquote, opening back up, I decided not to go back to studio just because I was spending so much time doing all the carnivore yogi stuff. And it was just basically like a full-time job that I didn't want to leave the house and go drive across town and get to the studio early and then teach a class and then stay late. And it would take like 3 hours out of my day. And I don't have, my daughter is at school from like 8:30 to 3. So that's my working time.
Right.
If it doesn't happen between 8:30 and 3, it doesn't happen.
Right.
So I just kind of was like, I did studio teaching for years and years and years, for about a decade, and I just don't really want to go back to it. So I do have a group of students that I see every Saturday, and we just do Zoom, and they just pay me PayPal, and we, just have,
Perfect.
it's a
Yeah.
good, way for me to get on my mat because I actually practice with them.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's really like the only yoga that I'm doing at this point. I've kind of separated a lot from the yoga community just because there's been a lot of weirdness since the pandemic. So there's a lot of division and weirdness. And so I have kind of shied away from a lot of the yoga people that I used to be really close with.
I also think that you have so much to give. So it makes sense to me that you've got to figure out your time
Hmm.
since you only have so much of it. And yeah, and I don't know how you feel about that, but I keep reminding myself that my own healing is my priority. Like my family, obviously, but if I'm
Yep.
not, I can't do any of these things if
Yep.
I'm not and now I run my life by the sun.
Yes.
It feels even shorter in
Yeah,
terms of like
exactly. Cause I'm
work.
like, no laptops, no, no working after sunset. Like it's the same. So you really do have to manage your time. And the self-care piece is really important. Like my husband, he's always like, you're working too much, you're taking too many appointments. And so I had to quit seeing clients. I had to close my calendar down, and I might open it back up, in April. But right now I had to close it down just because I really need some self-care time for me too. I can't just always be putting out content and seeing, clients. And so that's the other reason I started my webinars, because it's a great way for me
Yes.
to still teach and connect with people, but not have, it's like I spent an hour and 45 minutes on my webinar yesterday with like 165 people.
Yeah.
And that's a way I can reach all of those people without sitting down with them individually. So
165
that's
hours. Yeah.
right. So
Great.
it's
That's
just,
great.
I'm really like trying to figure out how I can do more things like that.
Yes.
To continue to help people and give them these tools, especially the quantum tools. I think they're just so powerful and amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just trying to wrap my head around it and just kind of revamp everything right now.
Yeah. Which I mean, that's what we have to do. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just grateful that you said yes
Oh,
to letting me interview you and talk to me because I'm trying to put more out there too. And it's just
good.
so amazing. It's so powerful. And to know that you could feel this good, I didn't know you could feel this good. So, of
Yeah.
course, you want other people to know that it's possible to feel
Yeah.
really, really great. So I really appreciate your time. And I
Yeah.
will link below. I'll link everything so people can find you and your workshops. I need to get to one of your workshops.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're whatever you're cooking up in March, that will
I'll let you know for sure. Yeah. And
I'll
I
be.
have my, the quantum health masterclass that I did in January. That's available to just download.
Oh, right. You recorded them so people can.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And I'm going to talk with my web person today to try to get that quantum plate one up. And so people can purchase that one too.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I think that's a great way to spend your time because that.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Well, thank you
Awesome.
so much.
You're very welcome.